Hello and welcome to another edition of Solving Standard. I am here with, yes, that's right, we are playing with it, an Oko deck. Now, whether this deck is going to be legal in a few weeks, I don't know, right? In the format, we could see something get banned, but as of now, I think this is the clear best deck in Standard. I wanted to record with it. I have a love-hate relationship with this deck, okay? But it's a powerhouse. We've got our staple food cards. It's got the Simic base, but this version does splash black as well. So, of course, 4 copies of Gilded Goose, 4 copies of Paradise Druid. We want to be ramping on our first couple turns, finding one of these mana creatures so that we can accelerate our Planeswalkers out ahead of schedule. And 4 copies of Once Upon a Time, so just being able to find a land, find a mana creature, find one of your top-end cards like your Hydroid Grixis or your Wicked Wolf. Super important. So Once Upon a Time, just a super important card because it smooths out your draws, essentially. And then Grixis is just a nice top-end play, especially once you get a Nissa who shakes the world onto the battlefield, and then you're able to just draw a ton of cards and kind of close out the game in that fashion. Oko Thief of Crowns, do I really need to introduce this one? Perhaps, and almost undebatably, the best card in the format right now. Just being able to make something into an elk, it works and synergizes incredibly well with your Gilded Goose and your Wicked Wolf. So having an excess amount of food, sometimes you will -5 it because, hey, Oko is incredibly difficult to remove from the battlefield, so it's going to accumulate loyalty very quickly, and you can -5, gain control of something. We want some amount of removal, and we get to play a creature-based removal spell in this Wicked Wolf. Wicked Wolf is great. It's good against... Well, it's going to be at its best against other creature decks, but it's also okay against the slower decks just because it's tough to get rid of since you can give it indestructibility. 4 copies of Nissa, who shakes the world, so this is just your most powerful top-end play. You want to be casting Nissa turn 3, turn 4 if you can. Getting this down, making your lands into threats, and then accelerating out optimally a Grixis or something else the following turn is just really, really, really powerful. So those are the kind of the core Simic food cards that I just talked about. But there is this black splash. There's a debate right now in terms of this deck if it's best to just stay straight Simic, or if it's best to splash. You can splash for white, but you can also splash for black or red. But black is kind of the default right now. I do think that this version is the way to go at the moment because you get these 4 copies of Noxious Grasp, which I can't imagine that this card was developed to be a main deck staple, but right now, just because of the prevalence of Oko and this deck in general, Noxious Grasp is kind of the best answer to Nissa, to Oko, to Goose. So we're playing 4 copies, primarily to just try to get a little bit of an edge in the mirror, but the problem is that once you do it and you realize it's good, everyone else just does the same thing. But hey, 4 copies of Noxious Grasp, because we don't want to be behind in our mirror matches. Vraska Golgari Queen is really solid. Planeswalker at 4 mana. You can plus it to just gobble up some food and draw cards. You can minus it to get rid of opposing Okos, opposing threats. It's never really going to be a dead card because, hey, it's just a good Planeswalker. And then we've got our 2 6-mana plays. So 1 copy of Garrett Cursed Huntsman. This is a Planeswalker that can kind of go over the top of what your opponent's doing. It's very, very powerful just to be able to kill a creature, draw a card, or if you're able to get it up to a lot of loyalty and make that emblem, It's really nice. And then Casualties of War is the other 6 mana card I've gone for here. I do think it's good in the mirror matches, just being able to sometimes get a food off the battlefield, get a planeswalker, a creature. It's good in the mirror. It's just a good card. You can only play so many top end cards because you do want to be mindful of your curve, and I've gone with the 1/1 split here. As far as the mana base, a lot of the standard lands that you typically see here: Watergrave, Overgrown Tube, and Breeding Pool, some Fabled Passages, more Forest than anything else, because the green mana early is the most important thing, since Gilded Goose and Paradise Druid make mana of any color. It's sort of easy to splash for other things once you have your green mana already. Sideboard, okay, so Veil of Summer, this is perhaps the most important sideboard card the deck has access to, being able to really, really hurt the control deck's game plan against you, and it's also good against these removal spells like Noxious Grasp. Duress, Temur Reclamation is good there. Sometimes you can even board it in mirror matches or against decks with just a lot of Planeswalkers, Fires of Invention decks. Disdainful Stroke and Negate, some counter magic. Similar, honestly, those are the decks that I'm most scared of game 1, is going to be those non-creature based decks. So you really want to have some counter spells post board. Legion's End, Lovestruck Beast, and the Massacre Girls are for the creature based matchups. So we sometimes there's going to be matchups where we have to board out our Noxious Grasps, like our opponent's playing Mono Red or our opponent's playing Rakdos. Those are dead cards, almost, game 1. So we want to be taking out our Grasps. We want to have other good cards in those matchups. And we do have them in Legion's End, Lovestruck Beasts. And Massacre Girl is just insane against those adventure decks that try to go wide against you with cards like March of the Multitudes. 1 copy of Tamiyo. Similarly, it's good against the control decks. It also stops discard like Thought Erasure, which is sometimes pretty relevant. So this is the deck. I'm going to be playing it. I may run into some mirror matches. I don't know what I'm going to be playing against on the ladder. The ladder is kind of heavily Oko based at the moment, to be honest with you, but definitely a deck I'm heavily considering for the upcoming Mythic Championship in Richmond, so I want to showcase it today. Alright, let's jump in to some matches with our Sultai Oko deck. We're really hoping to... the best draw with this deck is to have either a turn 2 Oko or a turn 3 Nissa. But we're hoping for that. That's not necessarily going to happen. That's not going to happen every game, but... so we've got a reactive hand with double Noxious Grasp here, so I think we keep and hope to be against a deck that Grasp is good. We also have a Paradise Druid. If we were against a deck where Grasp was not good, this would not be a good hand, but hey, it appears that Grasp is going to be good against what our opponent's playing. They might just have an Oko, but they don't. Can't play an Oko if the next land is going to be Fabled Passage here. So interested to see what the follow-up is going to be. I don't really want to Grasp immediately. I'm going to play out the Paradise Druid because we have double Grasp. So if our opponent plays a Nissa or a Oko, it's not the end of the world because we have the 2 copies of Noxious Grasp in hand. But we don't have to Grasp necessarily this turn. We could Wicked Wolf, but I think the problem with going for the Wolf here is that our opponent could just gain control of it or make it into an Elk. So I'm just gonna hold up the other Noxious Grasp and pass back to our opponent here. We don't want to be tapping the Paradise Druid because we're going to need that to cast our Nissa next turn. So we can just jam Nissa next turn, kind of no matter what. But it looks like our opponent also has a Nissa.
Witness the ties that bind us all.
So I am just gonna grasp that that Nissa. And then we're gonna be playing our own Nissa. So I guess the question is, which land do we want to animate? And do we want to play our Gilded Goose here? I don't think we need to run out the goose this turn, so I'm just going to animate the swamp and attack. And just offer up that trade. But it looks like our opponent's valuing their forest. They could have a grasp. Okay, they do. So that's annoying. So we see the importance of the grasps in the mirror match, being able to get rid of the planeswalkers. And now it's kind of like neither player has gotten to do fully what they want to do. We have the opportunity to play a 4/4 Hydro Grixis if we want to this turn. Could also play Wicked Wolf and Gilded Goose as the other option. The nice thing about the wolf is we can get rid of the Paradise Druid and can kind of constrain our opponent on mana. I think I'm going to go for that line of getting rid of our opponent's creature right now. It's all going to be a little bit contextual because we don't know exactly what's in our opponent's hand at the moment. But just like this could stop our opponent potentially from getting a Nissa down. And it could potentially give us 8 mana for next turn. If we draw a land for turn, we can then Grixis for more, to draw more cards than we would be able to this turn. So I like the play. It also gives us the food to be able to sacrifice to the Wicked Wolf if we feel the need to do that, and we got to attack for 5. So if our opponent's just playing a Paradise Druid, they're not having a very good turn here, and we can try to capitalize on that. I'm going to attack first with the Swamp and the Wicked Wolf. And then we get to play this Grixis. I think we just want to do it for 4. That way we don't have to use the food. You can play another Goose, but I don't really think that does much. So I'm gonna pass here. Not the greatest 2 cards to draw there off the Grixis trigger. Okay, so our opponent does have Massacre Girl in the main deck. That is a beating. That's a beating. That's just gonna that's gonna completely sweep this board up. And there's not really anything we can do about it. I don't think we misplayed necessarily. We stopped the Massacre Girl last turn by casting the Wicked Wolf. Sacrificing our food wouldn't do anything there to the wolf, so yeah, Massacre Girl sweeps the board. I don't necessarily think that puts us in that bad of a situation because we still have more cards in hand than our opponent, but we're gonna hope this Once Upon a Time finds us something good. I'm gonna take this Wicked Wolf. And then just deploy the rest of our cards, see what happens. We can wolf down the girl next turn, but if our opponents say... I mean, if they play a Planeswalker here, it's definitely rough. This is kind of rough. Not gonna block. So... Okay, Grixis is nice. Do we want to cast the Grixis right now, is the question, or do we want to wolf down the Massacre Girl, and that would allow us to also make an attack? I think we want to play the... So if we play the Grixis, it's probably going to get elked. I think I'm going to go for the Wicked Wolf. And then, of course, we have to sacrifice our food to give our wolf indestructibility and to make it a 4/4. And I'm going to value an attack here, I think. Yeah, I think we want to attack. The question is, do we attack our opponents directly, or do we want to go after the Oko? Because our opponent is at 8. If we attack Oko down to 4, is that actually going to make a big difference here? The minus and exchange control of the food for something doesn't do a ton. So I think I'm just going to go face. And just try to get this game over with. Like, the difference between 6 and 4 loyalty on the Oko I don't think is huge here. But we're hoping to fade this draw step. If our opponent just draws a land here, we should be in quite good shape. So, yeah, some versions play Massacre Girl, where we have cards like Casualties of War. Our opponent may have Massacre Girl. So there's a few flex slots in the deck. We also have a Garruk that not everyone is going to be playing. So there's little subtle differences between lists. Guess our opponent's really giving this some consideration. And they may just be thinking about what to do with their Oko. Alright, so I guess our opponent just, I guess I don't know what happened. They might have had a timeout there or something, which happens. Unfortunate. I don't really know, but I think that if our opponent just had a bad draw step there, they're kind of dead anyways. I do think that this has been an interesting game up to this point. The mirrors can be interesting. It's not, especially when there's multiple grasps involved. It's not just who is nut drawing the other person. So yeah, I don't know what happened, but we're just gonna most likely... Well, no. Yeah, this is lethal. Even if our opponent gains the 3 life. So onto the sideboard. This is a matchup where it's kind of contextual. Like, I don't think there's a rubric that is clear as to what to do. It's somewhat dependent on what you think that they are doing. The Veil of Summers are good specifically against Noxious Grasp and Casualties of War. So I like kind of... I don't like boarding in all 3 of those, but some amount of them is definitely reasonable. I'm fine with cutting a couple Once Upon a Times. Other cards, I don't really love Massacre Girl in the Mirror. Duress is actually a card that you can use to disrupt the opponent, but I'm just gonna run it as is here, just cutting a couple Once Upon a Times for a couple Veil of Summers. Really not sideboarding very much at all. The Veils are specifically good if your opponent's trying to Casualties of War you. Sometimes you don't have the opportunity to get around the Noxious Grasps because you don't have a mana up, but this is a hand I'm going to keep. We actually have our casualties in the opener, so we may get to see that one in action here. But if our opponent just has a nut draw, we are soft to that, and that's just going to happen. This is a hand that cannot really beat the nuts, which the nuts is a turn 2 Oko or a turn 3 Nissa in this spot, and our opponent already has the Goose. So they're already halfway there. We don't have a Grasp. So we're vulnerable. We're definitely vulnerable here. Okay. So we're hoping to dodge Nissa next turn. We do have this Casualties of War, but we may not get the opportunity to cast it in a, like, if we cast this in, like, a board state where we're not totally dead. Okay, they're playing Watergrave tapped. That is excellent, 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 excellent news. So they did not have the Nissa there. So now we've got some decisions to make. I think we just want to play the Wicked Wolf out and try to get rid of this Goose. Our opponent could play a Noxious Grasp or... Okay, they actually boarded in Mystical Dispute, which is interesting. I actually don't have that in my sideboard at all, but it is definitely an interesting inclusion. And now... Nissa... Okay, well... That's definitely bad news. We have casualties. So we can try to set a casualties up. But we can also just play a Nissa. I think we just play the Nissa this turn. Just kind of try to combat our opponent's Nissa.
We will not fail.
We might even just be supposed to get in there and accept a trade. I think that's right. Because if they trade Breeding Pool, it becomes really difficult for them to actually get rid of our Nissa, but it looks like they're just going to take the hit to their Nissa. Which might mean they have a wolf, which they do. So this is kind of the disaster scenario, because we're losing one of our lands, and we're going to lose the Nissa. So we cannot actually cast the casualties next turn, because we're not going to have 6 mana, and our opponent's Nissa is still on the battlefield.
The land fights for us. Forgive me.
Vraska, definitely not gonna get us out of this. Vraska is good in some games. It has not been good in this one.
Go ahead.
I'm actually not even sure what we want to do with it. No, we're just dead. We're just dead. We just on the draw. We were on the back foot there, which can happen. Based on what we saw Mysticals. So I do like the Veils. I still like the Veils because we saw Mystical Disputes. I'm gonna run this back. I think if I knew how our opponent was sideboarding, in retrospect, I might have boarded out. Like, Vraska is a card you can take out on the draw. I think you definitely want it on the play. But in retrospect, I might have taken it out on the draw. Based on... I mean, it's kind of results-oriented, but it was definitely bad there. So anyways, we're going to keep this hand is great. Because we have the turn 2 Oko lined up. Now the other option is because we drew the Goose, we could actually go for a Nissa next turn and just play Goose. But our opponent can still have Grasp here. So I think it's kind of a tricky decision to make. Nissa is definitely the more powerful of the threats, though. So I think I am gonna go for the Nissa. And just go for the power, because it also allows us to get our Fabled Passage into play. Which gives us 5 mana for next turn, so we can cast the Nissa. But it means giving up on the Oko for multiple turns, which is why it's kind of a tough decision. We already have 2 forests. I think we just get an island here. To give us our blue source. And we've been setting up this Nissa as our main threat of the game. It's in the early turns. It could get Noxious Grasped, which is basically the main way we could lose this game is if it gets grasped, but we're still ahead even if that happens because we can follow it up with Oko or Wicked Wolf next turn. Okay, well, Grixis is not something we need to worry about very much here. I think we want to... We're probably going to Wicked Wolf the Paradise Druid. So I'm actually going to just play an Oko and make one of these gooses into a creature we can attack with.
invite you to change your ways?
And this, we will still have 4 mana, so we can play the Wicked Wolf after this. So that means that our opponent cannot play something like a Massacre Girl. And, yeah. GG's. I know. Mirror matches. But honestly, this is one of the formats where knowing the ins and outs of this mirror is possibly more important than knowing other mirror matches. Like, almost the most important mirror match in recent Standard history. If you're able to navigate the Oko mirrors, which is admittedly somewhat luck-based. We're going to keep this. We have the Goose. So, yeah. Probably can just grab another land with Once Upon a Time. Potentially Blood Crypt is kind of scary for our Noxious Grasp. So I guess we'll get to see how the Grasps fare here. So we have to take a land, actually. I think we just want the basic island. Get our Goose out. On the draw, if this is... Well, we don't know what this is. This could be Grixis. This could be Rakdos Aggro. This could be... We don't know. So, I don't want to make assumptions about the Noxious Grasp being dead, but it looks like Grixis. So, it's going to be a control matchup where the Grasps are going to be bad, which is going to be making this game 1 pretty difficult. Just gonna play play one of these lands. We don't necessarily want to shuffle because we know some of our bottom cards. Our lands, yeah, I'm just gonna. It's not really super important. We don't have anything to do here, unfortunately, which is pretty bad for our third turn to not have anything. Now they have the Fires, so they're playing Fae of Wishes, Fires plus Fae. Vraska, unfortunately, only gets rid of cards with converted mana costs, non-lands 3 or less. So, we cannot get rid of the Fires with it. They might just take the Vraska, and that is going to be the choice. Not surprised at all by that. I guess we can play a very sad Hydroid Krasis. Very sad. I do not think we're gonna win this game. They could just have Nicole Bolas here. Or not, yeah, the Planeswalker Nicole Bolas.
I will spare you. in exchange for eternal servitude.
I guess we just exile the food.
You have no weakness I cannot exploit.
That might have actually been wrong, in case we had drawn Oko and tried to kill the... Yeah, that was wrong. It was incorrect to exile the food. Because if we draw Oko, we can actually just kill... Well, we can kill Bolas either way, actually, because we can make our Grixis into an elk. So maybe it's fine to exile the food there. I guess I'll just get rid of the Noxious Grasp. The grasp only is good if we elked something, which if you elk a creature, it does actually make it into a green creature, which is kind of a nice little thing that can happen. But generally speaking, Noxious Grasp, this is basically the worst possible matchup for it, and we'll definitely be siding all 4 copies out.
Have been foiled. I outsmarted you eons ago.
I assume our opponent's playing Fae. They just haven't drawn it yet. Casualties of War being milled is pretty tilting. That would actually be our best, one of our best draws here. This is also a good draw.
Your existence is pointless.
So we have Nissa. I assume our opponent's not going to attack. Yeah, very smart of our opponent not to attack there. We're still just going to play it, though.
Power surges through these lands. Be wary of the ground you walk on.
Would have loved to have Nissa plus a Grixis at some point. Maybe they're not playing Fae. I mean, they've gone through so much of their deck. It's possible they're not playing Fae of Wishes. It just seems pretty strange to not play it if you're playing Fires. They could just cash in the Bolas. They might have another one. So if they wanted to just kill our Nissa off, I could see that being the play.
I know all there is to know.
Okay. So we're looking for our 4th Grixis, I believe. Is our best draw? No, we've already played all 4 Grixis. Excuse me.
Rise, my elemental friend.
The nice thing about this game, though, even though we are losing it, we're getting plenty of info on our opponent's deck.
I suffer for your cause. Inconceivable! My intellect is without limit.
Alright, they do have Fae of Wishes after all. I was waiting for that. And there it is. Think I'm fine with giving this one up. We could last a few more turns, but just seeing the Fae of Wishes, we're not... I just wanted to know if our opponent was playing Fae. They are useful information to have for the next game. Take out our grasps here. Wicked Wolves are also not great. And because we're cutting all of our Wicked Wolves, we have a few less creatures. I'm just gonna trim one copy of Once Upon a Time. Plenty of Planeswalkers, and then now we have counter magic to help get our Planeswalkers out. Definitely saw the vulnerability of main decking Noxious Grasp. There is definitely a very real risk to doing that. Pretty easy keep. We're looking to draw into a Planeswalker. The Once Upon a Time is actually not that great because there's not that many good cards we can find with it. But I'm still going to fire it off here. Alright, well that's extremely rare. It is more likely to happen post-board, but that just sucks. I mean, that is rough. Those are all cards we wanted in our hand. Pretty unlucky, in my opinion. Rare to whiff off Once Upon a Time. Four less creatures in our deck, but even so. So we're hoping to draw a Planeswalker like Nissa who shakes the world, perhaps. Could get Thought Erasure, which would suck because we only have one good card in our hand. So we have to top deck in order to win. And that was the card that we wanted probably the most. So that is great. They could have like could have removal for it.
I protect that which cannot protect itself. The land fights for us.
But even if they do get rid of it here, we still have some pressure now, which is pretty important. And I'm also quite lucky. Yeah. Quite lucky. It doesn't really... We could attack with this first or just play this other Nissa first. It ends up being the same amount of damage.
The land shall conquer you.
Oh! Oops. That was actually a... I apologize. That was a pretty bad mistake. I didn't mean to attack with the goose. Because we could have actually made a food here. We have two additional mana. We might the additional food might not be relevant, but it could be. So we can get our opponent down to 1 as of right now. And there's nothing they can do, so we know we have them at 1. I'm actually just gonna go ahead so I remember and make this food. The negate, of course, is a great draw. Gives us insurance against almost everything here. So, yeah, I don't think there's a need to counter the Fae. We can just counter whatever our opponent gets with Fae. But they might not have something they can get that gets them out of the spot anyways, which looks like was the case. So, fairly fortunate to draw the Nisses when we did, but we were unlucky with our Once Upon a Time. Sometimes that's how games play out. Not having a turn 1 green source in this hand is a huge tilt. I'm going to keep, though. We're on the draw. We could draw a green source or Once Upon a Time for turn. Otherwise, we just play Fabled Passage. And, you know, draw is not as good, but still playable. I think we just get this Paradise Druid out because it dodges more removal than the Goose. Could have an Angrass Rampage, which they do. But we can still just play Oko this turn.
Surely you must be famished.
Okay, no turn 4 fires. That is good news. And now the question is, do we want to Vraska? I think we just try to cast Vraska here. Our opponent might have a counter. Okay, they don't. So
Before I make you disappear.
I think we want to just sacrifice the food and make another food. It means we are not making an elk right now. But that's okay. All right, here's the fires. Plus, what is it going to be? Nicol Bolas.
All of the multiverse will bend to my will.
So we'll see what they want to do with it.
I grace you with my lack of presence.
Just getting rid of Oko makes sense. We might be trying to go for a Vraska alt this game. That's kind of annoying because had we known we would be drawing Oko, I would have played this differently. I am in a duress because I think it's just pretty important to prioritize it here. Unfortunately, really good hand from our opponent. So, with that being the hand, I think we just have to hold up our Disdainful Stroke and counter this Drown from Dreams. And I'm gonna get Exile a Grixis. We have 3 of them. They're not really that important here. Our plan might just be to win with Vraska Golgari Queen, which is rare for that to happen. But okay, they're gonna go for this Drown from Dreams, so we're just gonna counter that. I think we may want to sacrifice the goose here. The food, well, I guess that they have similar values. We're probably just gonna make either into an elk regardless to kill the Nicol Bolas.
Don't dwell on what's about to happen.
So yeah, we're gonna make our goose into an elk.
Let's broaden your existence.
It also plays around Cry of the Carnarium and puts us in a spot where next turn we are able to -9 our Vraska Golgari Queen. So our opponent really needs to act here. They need to answer multiple things, which is possible because they have fires in play and 4 cards in hand. So we'll see what happens. All right, there it is, Fae of Wishes. Let's see what our opponent can get. If they can get anything. I mean, I assume they have to answer the Vraska. That's the number one. So they should at least have a Planeswalker removal spell for that. Okay, command the Dreadhorde? That's weird. Okay, well they had an Elder Spell already. That's actually brutal. Wow. Yeah, Elder Spell is kind of the perfect answer, and now they can command the Dreadhorde and get back our own Planeswalkers and use them against us. So that is bad, really bad news for us. Not really anything we can do, unfortunately. They have the 6th land now, so they can cast that command. Nicol Bolas, Oko, and yeah, I mean this is brutal. This is insane. Like the Oko is amazing. I mean all 3 Planeswalkers, yeah, they're just gonna. And the Paradise Druid. That is a lot of life that our opponent's losing, but at the same time, I think that they are fine. Like they can... Yeah, I think they're fine here, unfortunately. If we had Veil of Summer or something, we would win. Okay, uptick with Nicol Bolas. I guess I'll just get rid of the Paradise Druid.
Will be painful. You have no weakness I cannot exploit.
One bite, and all your fears are gone.
That negate is a turn too slow for us, unfortunately. Well, nothing else to do. We just have to cast this Nissa and hope.
In this land, we are all connected.
Probably should have tapped the water grave to cast it.
Rise, my elemental friend.
Yeah, I definitely should have. I'm actually attacking Nicole Bolas here because I don't want our opponent to be able to minus it to get rid of our Nissa. And they can sacrifice the food to gain life. Alright, well, this play could end up working out for us. Because we have the negate in hand. I guess the question is, do we negate immediately? Or do we wait? I think we wait. So our opponent can only cast 2 spells a turn. But I guess they could, if they have like a Chandra or something uncounterable in their sideboard. This is kind of dangerous. So I guess it's just going to depend what they find with the Fae of Wishes. Yeah, so it's a Chandra. Yeah. Well, it's not... The thing about Chandra here is
You're about
I mean,
to.
it's not that amazing, is it?
Alive.
I mean, it's good. I think I should have negated. I think I probably should have negated. Because they can just they can just cash their Chandra in to get rid of Nissa.
I am omnipotent.
So had we negated, would have been way better for us, I guess.
Desire to finish you.
Should have been thinking about Chandra specifically. That is one of the most dangerous cards that the
Surely you must be famished.
Fires deck can get just because it's uncounterable. It shuts down our negate. Like, we can play a big Grixis this turn. But this board is kind of spiraling out of control. I am just going to tap so that we just have the goose up. Drew Veil of Summer, so that's actually the one card we can cast to interact with our opponent this turn. So maybe this isn't over. I definitely should have negated that one turn. The granted. Okay, well, ritual set is I guess if they had a ritual coming anyways, we were probably just dead.
It's not poisoned. Trust me.
All the cosmos are mine.
Don't dwell on what's about to happen.
Yeah, this Planeswalker advantage, I mean, our opponents just had great turns every single time. Even with the counter spells, we're just dead here. Tough match there, but let's bounce back. Grixis Fires, I mean, no deck is tier 1, right? But that is definitely not a deck I've played a ton versus, and I think that was definitely relevant there. Okay, so Double Grasp. This is the type of hand that we don't know if the grasps are going to be good. We don't have a Planeswalker, and you kind of want to mulligan semi-aggressively with the deck. I'm gonna mulligan this on the play. We can do better. This is also not a great hand. I think I'm going to. So we have nut draws, right? We haven't seen an Oko, we haven't seen a Nissa in any of these hands. I think I'm just going to ship this for a 5, and here we go. So this is why you mulligan aggressively. Keep our 5, get rid of at least one Once Upon a Time, and I think just both of them. Untapped green mana. And we have the best. This is the best hand we've had because we get to turn to our Oko, even though it's a 5-card hand. So that's mulliganing is one of the trickiest things with this deck, and I think that this kind of shows why you can mulligan so aggressively. Now, if our opponent has a Noxious Grasp or something for our Oko, certainly we are in a really bad spot, and they do have it. So that's the flip side of this. Sometimes you just don't get there, but yeah, did not know the matchup. It looks like it's some sort of Golgari deck. Probably Golgari Adventures. No, Sultai. Take it back. Could even be a version of the mirror. And don't think we want to just play the Wicked Wolf. That is a lot of Scrylands. Interesting to see all of those Scrylands. I mean, we could just fire out the Wicked Wolf, but I just don't know what our opponent's playing. Just gonna continue passing. But they might have Anissa here, I guess. Castle Lockwain. So some sort of Sultai control deck, I guess. Now we have a target for our wolf. Murderous Rider's gonna take out the goose. The goose kind of did its work. Oh wow! Feasting Troll King. Okay, that's spicy. Our opponent gets 3 foods, and then even if we get rid of it, they can get it back. And now we actually don't have the blue mana anymore. Oh, that's so gross. No blue mana. Well, I'm actually just going to get in there with the wolf. And sacrifice 3 of our foods. Then we can use the grasps in hand on when the Troll King comes back. Because I assume our opponent's just gonna sack 3 foods and then return it. But they're not? Okay, interesting. Well, we're just gonna play Nissa. And this is actually not... Well, it's not good for us, but we get to find our island. So we can actually win this game still. As weird as this game has been, we can still win it. In fact, we might be a favorite from here. I don't know what that... Our opponent only has 1 card in hand. This is a spicy deck, though, that's for sure. We can make them sacrifice another food by grasping, but don't really think that gets us anywhere. We kind of don't mind this, right? This Troll King coming back. Because we have the grasp. They can sacrifice the Troll King for a food. We could actually take care of this Wicked Wolf now before our opponent gets another food, but I think we just play Oko rather. Oh, sorry, they get 2 foods. So they could attack and...
I'll shear the wool from your eyes.
You know what? I could have actually made the... I think the play might have been to make the oven into an Alk. It's too late, though. This might not have been the best line.
Surely
But
you see the
if our opponent doesn't draw something good, I love our spot. I was forgetting that this actually makes multiple foods, so because this was a 6 toughness creature here. Yeah, so our opponent bricked off. Not sure about that last turn, but hey, multi-5. Our opponent seemed to be doing some pretty cool stuff, but still able to take it down. Veil of Summer seems great against this deck that our opponent's playing. Might want our Tameo even? Like, this seems like a grindier matchup. Do we want our Grasps here? Don't actually know. Like, they were not particularly good that game, but we don't know all of the... Like, I assume they have Okos, right? They have to have Oko. They probably do. So maybe we're just not sideboarding very much. Vraska can get rid of a Witch's Oven. That's pretty good. We want all of our top end. I'm just gonna... I cut one Wicked Wolf, actually, on the draw. We didn't see, like, Paradise Druid, so our opponent may not have the smaller creatures that you'd normally want a wolf. When we saw it, it sat in our hand for a while. It was eventually quite good, but not something we really want multiples of. This is a hand... We're on the draw. I'm going to keep it, and if we draw a Gilded Goose, it's great. Otherwise, the hand is kind of medium, but we're just hoping our opponent doesn't have an insane draw, but the fact that they have a turn 1 Goose means they could just have it, right? They could just have the turn 2 Oko, but they don't. This is a close hand. This is a hand I almost mulliganed. And it's possible it would have been correct to do so. Just because we're not doing anything quickly, but we saw so much reactive stuff in our opponent's deck that I think that's why I kept it. Like, they probably just have a removal spell for this Oko or counter spell.
the fool, or the fool who heals them. May we meet again, or not.
So having a threat dense hand against this deck that our opponent's playing could end up being beneficial. Vraska is going to be the play here. I think we want to get rid of the goose to prevent our opponent from having 6 mana for next turn.
I'm good at what I do.
And there's a decent chance that Vraska's just gonna die.
It seems fortune favors you.
Don't have it. Whatever it is, and it's Nissa. Okay, so
We are all connected.
our opponent could have cast a Nissa last turn and did not.
I've suffered worse.
It's just odd. Nothing we can do besides play our own Nissa.
Strange and magnificent world. The land shall conquer you.
Alright, well, if we're able to keep our Nissa in play, that's great. And we're not.
Help you no longer.
So now our opponent just has a Nissa unchecked. We would have to draw, like, we really want our own Noxious Grasps.
The land fights for us.
And this game, our opponent's deck is looking much more like our deck.
We will not fail. The land shall conquer you.
Gonna continue to try to pressure this Nissa of our opponents. They can actually... No, they don't have double black. So they can't draw a card off the castle. But the fact that this opposing Nissa is going to be on 8 loyalty is pretty bad for us. So this is our last turn to draw. And it makes sense that our opponent has Cauldron Familiar because we saw Witch's Oven
Rise,
earlier.
elemental friend.
Not really that surprised to see it.
Do not assume I am fragile.
Oh, wow. Wow, 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 wow. That was the card. That was like our best draw step. Okay. So we can cast that here. And it's just going to be a huge blowout.
I am in need of rest.
Yeah, that was absolutely massive. We cannot play Vraska this turn because we don't... If we had an Overgrown Tomb, we could.
Be wary of the ground you walk on.
Not worried about it, though.
Revel with your king, wild and sovereign and free. Your new look is enchanting.
Alright, so we'll see if this food comes in. I think we'll just block. And attack here. And I mean that Casualties of War, you see how impressive it can be. We needed an answer to the Nissa, and that was the best one. And with, after that, I don't see our opponent really coming back from this. I'd be very surprised. Not sure what they're really thinking about. And you know what? We should not block. If our opponent were to attack here, blocking would not be correct. Because we just want to have 6 power to kill off the Oko. So one play we could make is just simply play Vraska here, or we can Grixis. Either way, we're in a great spot. I'm actually, or we can do both potentially as well. Yeah, I'm just gonna play both. So we have 6, 10 mana. So we play this for 8. Sorry, I should have played it for 6 if we wanted to do both. That's a mistake. Mistake. Don't have an overgrow tomb.
Harness the elements.
I mean, was it a mistake? Maybe. Maybe it was. Because we could have Vraska minus just kills Oko. Now we're letting Oko stay in play for another turn, but we're so far ahead. We are so far ahead that I don't think is going to be that costly. But I should have. What I meant to do is Grixis for 6, draw 3, and then Vraska minus. I think that was the correct play. But I mean, there's no way they can win from here. Even there's just no way. There's nothing. Nothing they can do. And it looks like our opponent sees the writing on the wall, scoops it up. So hey. We've won against 2 different variations of Sultai, right? So that's kind of where you want to be. Kind of where you want to be in this format. The most popular combination of colors. Take the play. I'm going to keep this. I think you have to keep Oko at turn 3 Oko on the play. As unexciting as that may sound, considering we can have a Wicked Wolf in our hand, and this, like, if we had a wolf, this hand, sorry, not Wicked Wolf, Gilded Goose. If we had a Gilded Goose in this hand, it would be great. I kind of want to just take the 2 damage here to hold up Grasp. Just in case our opponent plays a goose, we can kill it. Or if they play something else that's green, that's not a Paradise Druid, we could kill it. Unfortunately, it is a Paradise Druid. So we took an extra 2 damage. Hopefully that additional 2 damage doesn't cost us, but it could. Certainly could. But our plan is to Oko, and then potentially we're just going to Wicked Wolf this Paradise Druid as soon as it taps. But our opponent notably is on Jund colors at the moment. Woo, this is some spice. Okay. Trail of Crumbs. We're playing in some food decks. Food decks seem to be popular at the moment. And that is annoying. Oh, that's so annoying that the druid isn't. It's not tapped, so we can't actually Wicked Wolf for good value. That's annoying.
Let's broaden your existence.
Okay, I guess I'm just going to attack. I don't think playing the goose out for no value is worth it, but then again, I don't actually know what our opponent's deck is trying to do, so it could have been correct. But we also don't have a food in play. All right, so we may want to get rid of this Mayhem Devil. With the Wicked Wolf. I'm just gonna grasp this. We also, I guess we could, we could try to gain control of the Mayhem Devil. So maybe I won't, I'm not going to sacrifice the Fable Passage. I want to leave that as an option that's on the table. And if we were to take this, we would definitely want the Fable Passage, because when you sack a Fable Passage, it triggers the Mayhem Devil. However, I'm just going to play Wicked Wolf because we have no other play here. And we also don't have anything we really want to give to our opponent.
Welcome to the feast.
This does, by us just sacking the food sacking the food, it does trigger the Mayhem Devil. It is whenever a player, so that's the other reason we did not want to sacrifice the Fable Passage. But here, I think they're just paying Oko twice, which is fine because Oko's on a pretty high loyalty. So yeah, this is still fine for us. Have to be careful about Fable Passage when Mayhem Devil's on the battlefield. It's another spot where we could just sit on it and try to gain control of this. We could also just make it into an elk. Yeah, I'm just gonna let it resolve and just hold the Fabled Passage. In case we, like, if we draw a goose or something, we might just want to gain control of the devil. Grixis. Interesting. Yeah, I think we make the Mayhem Devil into an elk.
I invite you to change your ways.
Just play a nice 4/4 Grixis. Alright, so they're going to get rid of our Grixis, but our opponent is at 5 life, and we're going to have... We can use these Noxious Grasps. We can actually get rid of the Devil. Right, because it's green now. So I think we might have lethal. And our opponent's just going to scoop him up. Alright, so our opponent's playing a version of the food deck with Mayhem Devils. Very interesting deck choice. Question is, how to sideboard if we want to sideboard at all against this deck? Veil of Summer, I'm not sure. They may have grasps, they may not. I think I'll just run it back. Seems like the safest choice. Haven't played this matchup very much though. Wicked Wolf does seem extremely good though, knowing that our opponent has Mayhem Devils in their deck. I think this is a keep. Not one of our better keeps, but it's a keep. That was a pretty good draw. We're looking for like a Goose or a Grixis, but did not find those cards. I guess the red could also be for like Corvold, I think is the name of the card. So they may have, yep, they have the oven. That's actually a really, really powerful turn, what our opponent just did to us. I think we want to hold back our Druid. Get our Oko down.
Open your heart to the magic that dances around you.
Just gonna make a food.
One bite, and all your care.
Notably, the Oko can make the Witch's Oven into an elk. Something that's definitely worth being aware of. The familiar is going to come in and out of the battlefield right now. If our opponent attacks with the Paradise Druid, I think we just have to trade Druids off. Try to protect our Oko. That's going to be our ticket to potentially win the game. If we can get a nice board and then make the oven into an elk to stop the Cauldron familiar stuff. Not worth it to block the familiar, because they can just bring that back by sacking food. Oh no. Well, that's bad. That is rough. But everyone plays Noxious Grasp these days, so I shouldn't be that surprised. I think every deck we've played against today has had Noxious Grasp. Alright. Let's Once Upon a Time. Another Grixis. Or Wicked Wolf. I think I'll just take another Grixis. If we had drawn a Gilded Goose that turn, or found a Gilded Goose rather, we would have cast it. The Wicked Wolf is not as good when your opponent has a Witch's Oven available. You can just sack in response, and nothing here is really that great to get rid of with a wolf. Now our opponent's Wicked Wolf on the other hand, that is quite strong. And our life total is in jeopardy here. These Cauldron Familiar hits and triggers are adding up. But our opponents also just had a really strong draw, seemingly. Much more impressive draw than the last game. Nothing to be done here. We just have to play Grixis. Casualties is a good draw. It gets rid of artifacts, notably. But this Wicked Wolf is capable of causing a lot of problems. So we don't have good blocks for it. And that's probably game. They can attack for 7. The Cauldron Familiars come back. Even if we resolve this casualties here, don't think it's gonna be enough. So does Oko do anything? We can casualties. Guess we kind of have to casualties, but well, what if we played Oko? Or even Grixis. Could just play Grixis. Grixis gives us a 4/4 blocker. I'm gonna casualties. I think we're in a bad spot here. So if we had Grixis, we would have gone up to 8. I mean, getting the Witch's Oven off the board is... I mean, we needed to do that. We have to chump now. We have to chump the Wicked Wolf. And then we're taking 2 down to 4. There's a chance here. Small chance. Ooh, wow. Whoa. We're casting that. Casting that. That was a great draw. Potentially a great draw.
Bigger game. We were born for the hunt.
And now our opponent, we got rid of the green. They can still use the goose for green mana, but they can't actually make a food here. No! Oh! Claim the firstborn for the win. For the win. Almost came back there with that Garrick top deck and everything. So this is a matchup where I'm treating it basically like the mirror, even though it's not actually the mirror. I guess maybe Massacre Girl is good against this version. I'm gonna cut a couple Noxious Grasps for Massacre Girls. Kind of like that idea. Veil could be good. We did see Noxious Grasps. So maybe we're just supposed to cut our Grasps completely and just play Veils. Not sure about that. I mean, Veil doesn't stop like the claims. But yeah, I'm gonna try this. Just cutting our grasps on the play and just being more proactive. Worth keeping this. Casualties is, we saw, even though it didn't win us the game, it was close to it. Close to allowing us to come back from a pretty rough spot, and we just need like one planeswalker. It seems like I've been saying that every match when we have these mana creatures, but we'll be able to cast this Casualties. I guarantee you the Casualties is going to be able to be cast. And our opponent's deck is weird because it's trying to do a number of different things with its food synergies and the sacrifice synergies. Easy Paradise Druid. Do you have the... Okay. No. Oh, yes. Yes. We did it. We found a Planeswalker. Perfect. think I'll just make a forest
Behold, nature's true
into a
power.
3/3 bash and see if they have a noxious grasp. No grasp.
I can help you no longer.
Okay, that's unfortunate. We're still in a pretty good spot, though. I mean, we're just so far ahead on board, and we have the casualties. Which is probably going to get cast next turn. Depends on... I guess it depends. I mean, getting rid of the Blood Crypts is... Okay, now our opponent has a creature we care about getting rid of also. Although, Oko has a way of changing things. So now I think we just cast Oko. Although... Yeah, I think we just cast Oko.
I'm certain you're quite charmed to meet me.
They might have another grasp. Probably do.
You're too close-minded.
But we're dealing 8 damage.
Let's broaden your existence.
We're dealing 8 and... Threatening lethal next turn. So we're just gonna... We're probably... Even though our opponents killed the Planeswalkers, they kind of do a lot of their job already by just the first activation. We've gotten 2 3/3s. We've gotten a 3/3 off Nissa and a 3/3 off Oko, despite them getting Noxious Grasp. So you still have to be, like... Simply reacting is not enough. The damage has kind of already been done at this point, and it's going to be really tough. It's possible. I don't know what's in our opponent's hand, but I mean they've done some stuff. They can make use of these witches' ovens. It'd put them in a good spot. I don't know that this Wicked Wolf is going to be enough. It is... Yeah, they're just dead on board here. They're just dead on board. Actually, no, they're not. They're not dead on board. Yes, they are. They are dead on board because we have 2 foods. We can sacrifice both foods to the goose. We don't have to tap the forest at all. And we drew a land anyways. So... Yeah, it's just game. And it turns out we beat all of the Gilda Goose decks we played against. So, yeah, I think that this deck is really, really good. Just the best deck in the format. Knowing the ins and outs of these food matchups is pretty important. And we'll see about the bannings coming up in a couple weeks. Thanks for watching, everyone.